Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I own 52 units of real estate and I help coach people to buy their first multifamily deal. So today I want to talk about just save 10% down. Just save 10% down. It's a concept that I was following a lot back in 2017 when I was buying my first real estate property. And I remember I was laser focused on just saving for 10% down. So, what does saving for 10% down mean? Number one, it's very simple to do the math. If you're buying a $1 million property, you know you need to save $100,000. Or if you're buying $800,000 property, you need to save 10%, which is $80,000. So, number one, it's just very easy math, at least for me. And it seems less intimidating. If I were to tell you, okay, you have to save up $200,000, that's very intimidating. That's 20% down versus $100,000, that's 10% down. So just save for 10% down. And based on the market you're in. So I knew that I was in the Bay Area and the average home price that I was wanting to buy was $800,000. So that would be in Livermore, that would be in Concord, that would be in Pleasant Hill, that would be kind of the East Bay. If I want to go to Sacramento, that opens up some opportunities to buy, a fourplex, duplex, triplex for that price point. So I knew I was comfortable with $800,000 because that is what I was pre-approved for based on my debt to income ratio. If you want to figure out what your debt to income ratio is, you can talk to a lender, any lender, US Bank, Chase, Wells Fargo, any lender, and they can tell you what you're pre-qualified for based on your income. They're going to ask for your tax returns, your pay stubs, they'll pull your credit, they'll look at your bank statements, they'll look at any accounts you have for investing to figure out what money you have. So that's part that's simple. But after that, the hard part is saving up that 10% down. And once you have 10% down, it gives you many options. So this is going to be something that you're going to live in yourself. So it's going to be tied to house hacking. So with 10% down, if you live in there, if you live in the house, you can do 10% down traditionally. So you can buy a single family home like me and live in the master bedroom and rent out the other rooms and rent out each room for about $1,000 each. It's inconvenient. I get it. You have no privacy. I get it. The tenants will treat it like a hotel. I get it. I've been there. But it teaches you how to be a landlord, and it teaches you how to dip your toes into the real estate business without too much risk. Because worst case, if you don't like it, you own the house. You can kick them all out and live in there yourself. So make sure it's a house that you would want to live in yourself, in an area you want to live in yourself, at least. So that's the least convenient way. If you can get a duplex, it's a little bit more convenient. Maybe you could live in one unit yourself, 10% down, and rent out the other unit. If you have a triplex, now you live in one unit yourself, you have 2 units you can rent out. If it's a fourplex, you can live in one unit, rent out the 3 other units. I wish I bought a fourplex that I could house hack, but where I was looking at in the Bay Area, fourplexes were very rare and it was hard to find a good one. So that's why I went single family home route. So once again, 10% down. Whatever in your market, if you can get a fourplex, great. If not, do a threeplex. If not, do a twoplex. If not, get a single family home and make it work. So I did the fourplex would have been perfect for me because if it's all 2-bedroom, 1 bath, that's all I need. I need a 2-bedroom, 1 bath for myself. And then I can rent out the 3 other units and then learn to be a landlord slowly and easily. And what's nice about 10% down house hacks is down payment is lower, 10%. It could be less, it could be 5% or 3.5%. Number 2 is the interest rates are going to be better. Number 3 is the insurance is cheaper. And number 4 is it's a great way to get started in rental real estate to see if you like it or not. So it's kind of like a simple trial before you commit to buying more real estate. Like if you were to buy an apartment out the gate, you're committed. Versus a fourplex, it's just a place for you to live. Easy. So, okay, now that you know what you're pre-qualified for, you know where you want to buy that you would live yourself, you know your 10% number. At that point, I knew my 10% was $80,000. At this point, It's just doing math. So how much money do you make and how much do you have to expend? So I knew that I took home, I think at the time, $8,000 a month. And I was living at home for free. So I had no rent. I paid off my student loans at that time because I lived at home for free. And instead of paying rent, I took that money to pay off my student debt. I had $250,000 of student debt that I had to pay off. So living at home, very inconvenient, but saves you a lot of money. And it's very common in Asian American households to do that. So if you have that position and you're able to, living at home is the greatest hack ever that helped me build wealth, that helped me lay my financial foundation to buy real estate. If it wasn't for living at home and saving on rent, I would have not been able to save up for a down payment as fast. It would take me a lot longer. And also by living at home, you get food, you get a lot of free things. You don't have to buy anything. When you have your own apartment, you have to buy pots and pans and plates and furniture and internet, and all these little things add up, right? All these little things add up when you live on your own. I know now because I live on my own. So I took home 8,000. I had no student loans at the time because I paid it off. I had no rent. I literally just had to spend money on food, a gym membership, and whatever activities I wanted to do to travel. So for me at the time, I was, point hacking with Chase Reserve when it first came out, Chase Preferred, South America, Southwest, all these airline credit cards. I would use points to cover my flights, and I would travel with like friends so that we'd split the cost of the hotel, because hotels can fit 3-4 people. So that's how you shave down your costs. If you're paying $200 a night, divide by 4, it's $50 each. So I was traveling with friends on hotels to save money there. I got flights covered by points. So on average, I spent about maybe $1,000 a month. So I was able to save $7,000 a month, which is a crazy extreme rate. So I knew if I need to save $80,000 and I'm saving $7,000 a month, in about 1 year, I would have enough money for that 10% down. So that's what I did. I saved every year, every month, until I got my 10% down. Once I got my 10% down, I put it on a property. I would go to open houses every weekend. I would look on Redfin. I'd look on Zillow, go to open houses, make offers that made sense for me. And eventually, someone said yes, got my deal, put money into escrow, my 10% down. I remember my bank account had like $2,000 and I felt very poor. So I was very desperate and motivated to rent out my other rooms. I was living in the master bedroom. Fortunately, my parents helped me with some furniture. But if they didn't help me with furniture, I didn't need much. I just needed a sofa. I just needed a little table. I just needed a dining room table. And I needed a master bedroom set. So I could have bought that pretty inexpensive myself had I need to do that. But my parents had a great connection to a furniture wholesaler that sold to living spaces. So I got to buy things at wholesale price and not as marked up. So from there, once again, I got my 10%. And then after that, what do I do now? I rented out my rooms. I advertised on a Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. Yes, Craigslist. And I got about $1,000 each. So I got $3,000 a month after 2 months of advertising my rooms. So now I am making money. I feel broke. I'm getting $3,000 a month in rental income, which is enough to cover my mortgage. So I had to cover my property tax, my insurance, my HOA, my utilities. Yes, I had to, hire maids to clean the house and clean the house on my days off, but I was willing to do that. And once again, I wanted to save it for another 10%. So I want to buy another property. And that's exactly what I did. My next 10% was going to be $100,000 because I wanted to buy $1 million property, and property values went up at that time too. So once again, try to increase my income by job hopping, kept my expenses as low as possible. Because I was paying maybe $1,000 to $1,500 to live there. Food, my personal expenses was $1,000. Once again, kept my expenses low, and I want to save the next 10% down. So this is how it cascades, and you want to keep it very simple. Like, the hardest part is just saving for the money, for the down payment. After that, everything's easy. Finding a loan officer is easy. Finding a property is easy. The hardest part is saving up that initial 10% down. That's the part that takes discipline. That's the part that takes sacrifice. That's the part that takes delayed gratification. Yes, you can't go on this fancy Four Seasons hotel. Like I see people, especially now, they waste money on such frivolous things. Like they pay for valet parking, which is like $50, when you could just walk a little bit and pay nothing and get some exercise out of it. So just these little sacrifices that you have to make are ways to save money. And like paying for Grubhub or Postmates, it's convenient at certain times, but it can add up. It can start to add up in terms of your spending. So, and during this time window, like don't upgrade your car. Try to have a used car that you own cash. So there's no loan payment on there. That's what I did. And it's tempting because everyone I knew got new BMWs, but just buy a used Camry, $2,000-3,000, reliable, cheap, inexpensive, and save that money because it'll give you a better life later. Then you can get the nice car later. That's what I'm doing now. Like I drove a used BMW, which my parents bought me. That was 3 years old, used. I drove that for 10 years into the ground. It literally broke. The transmission broke. I had to fix it, and I just sold it. And I bought my Tesla, finally, after like building up a $6 million net worth. So, once again, back to the core message, save for that 10% down. And once you have that 10% down, you buy a property, house hack it, save for that next 10% down. And repeat that a few more times. And there you go. You have if you bought a fourplex every single time, you do that 4 times, you have 16 units. If you have single family homes, you might buy 3 or 4 single family homes. And at that point, the single family homes, if they go up in value, you can 1031 exchange all of those and trade up to an apartment complex. And now you just scaled significantly. But the easiest way is save 10% down and buy a property that you house hack. 10% is all you need. And that's what I did. And yes, when you buy 10% down, you still have to work a W-2 job because you have to be able to pay the mortgage when the tenants are there. If the tenants don't pay you, you still have to pay the mortgage. If there's an expense, you need a new roof, you need to cover that cost. So that's why you want to save their money and save that 10% down. So that's really it. It's really that simple. Just find a price range in your market, 10% down. That's it. Anyways, hopefully this inspires you. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to buy multifamily real estate and want some guidance and mentorship, check out the link down below. Otherwise, hope to see you next one. Thank you.